PK Shrivastava, what's being stated over here by the opposition is that the army is meant to guard the borders of the country. The army is meant to fight, conflicts such as Operation Sindoor. Are they really and realistically expected to be now be part of the conduct of examinations in the country? That's the question that they are asking.
Madhav, Army or Indian Air Force or Indian Navy, they have a role as per our Act, that in case of there is a requirement to aid the civil authorities for any kind of logistics activity or any kind of trust building in the nation or any kind of other activities, it is part of the legitimate work which we do and we have done a number of times. Normally it's very visible in terms of national calamities and otherwise. But if you really ask me, it is part of the abundant caution. See, as an Air Force man, I know what happens. There is a hub and spoke kind of structure when you print the system somewhere, you get it, you do the paper setting somewhere. These are the places where traceability can be very simple. But when it goes into spoke, in this case, I believe there are 551 cities to be sent the papers for. The logistics chain, the securitization of logistics chain, even when we send our arms and ammunitions or our confidential documents, top secret documents, that is the most important pilferage point. So you ought to be very sure, and particularly in the backdrop of continuous, politics over it and the continuous leakage, it is a national issue. And I'm pretty sure next year there'll be CBT kind of format, computer-based testing kind of format, and this issue will become a non-issue. But the first go, we need to ensure that if you go for the second round, you do not have any pilferage in the spoke. And spoke is your logistics. And if Air Force comes to the aid of the nation, and particularly for the young 23 lakh aspirants who are going to be your future professionals, in my considered opinion, it is a good step. And I would say it's not outside the domain of Indian Air Force. We don't only guard the border. The internal strife or internal security, when it is beyond the control, I mean, I'm using this word, they're very harsh words, and you feel that national interest can only be restored, sometimes through flag marches. The flag marches are done only for the sake of restoring the confidence of the people that yes, governance still continues. So for that reason, Madhav, it is a well set out thing. And in 2024 elections, we did 1,000 hours and some 1,074 sorties just to ferry EVMs to the rightful places so that there is no tinkering of the EVMs.
Let me bring in another voice on this. Let Dr. Akash Muni come in on that. Dr. Akash Muni, you heard the retired Air Vice Marshal, and he says that it is part of the armed forces mandate, and it is true that in times of emergency, for instance, when there are natural disasters, the armed forces do step in. At the time of election, for instance, they help with the ferrying of EVMs. So they are saying if this is really the requirement of the day, that armed forces have to be involved, the Air Force has to be involved, then so be it, if that brings us a resolution to the problem that students are facing. What's the opposition then, Dr. Muni?
Madhavji, see, the move to involve the defense forces for the first time in the Indian history, an institution tasked with national security in transporting question papers, underscores the failure of traditional organizations like police and the NTA to keep the paper leak gangs in check under the BJP government. And it may be government is banking on the credibility of defense forces to restore public trust in the examination process. I don't know. But just imagine, Army picks up the NEET exam paper from the printing center, bulletproof vehicles take it to the nearest airbase, IAF then flies the papers to the destination. Some will sarcastically ask that why not tank is used. But the main bigger question, Madhavji, today is that failure of the government in NEET paper leak scam. NEET-UG 2024 paper leak case, trial has not started yet. Yes, trial has not started yet. Since more than 2 years has passed. NEET 2026 paper leak scam, where 2 students have committed suicide and multiple are reported. CBI hasn't yet filed charge sheet. You are slow, and again, as usual, you are hiding behind the armed forces. If a civilian testing agency now requires military logistics for secure transport of papers, it suggests that ordinary administrative machinery is no longer trusted to ensure integrity. I request the NTA that either you stand up or conduct a new agency should be created. If they cannot do it, they should give up the position and ask somebody else to take over.
Okay. You want to respond to that, Charu? Because it shows a failure of governance is what Akashdeep Puni is saying, whether at the level of the police and other agencies or the NTA itself. And that is what is most striking. This is the first time this has ever happened in independent India's history. Please respond to Dr. Muni.
Mother, first of all, Mr. Muni is trying to mislead our viewers today by saying investigations have not been conducted. The cases have been handed over to CBI. There have been action taken. Charge sheets have been filed. Then NTA director has been removed. So it's not like action has not been taken. Another thing is that, and I'm going to say this without any kind of a political affiliation, ऐसा कहा जाता है कि चोर हमेशा पुलिस के एक कदम आगे भाग रहा होता है. So at this point of time, the government has decided to step up in a complete manner. And I'm sorry, Mr. Muni, there is no misusing of our defense forces and personnel. The fact is that every single power at the hands of the government is going to be used to make sure our children's future is secured. And I think you should be applauding the step the government is taking instead of finding reasons to criticize it further. Because the fact here is, it shows utmost seriousness. It shows that there is nothing above this. The priority is absolute and we are going to act accordingly. And then, like I said, this is not an isolated case. You know, it might be happening for the first time in India, but the world over, when examinations are of this level of importance, governments step in, authorities step in, cities, countries come to a standstill.
Where is the Air Force used, Charu Pragya? Which country is the Air Force used for transferring exam papers?
No. Listen, I'm not comparing the Air Force is being used. I'm comparing the level at which.
But that itself speaks volumes, doesn't
so there
it?
is no
Of course, I mean, I agree with
When it
you.
comes to a shutdown,
Countries
there are
do
lots of
take
other
severe measures, but this level of the armed forces being involved in transporting exam papers, does the opposition have a point when they say that things have become so dire that we can't trust anybody but our armed forces with the exam papers?
But tell me, if the opposition lives in such trust deficit, they in fact have even questioned our armed forces. So let's not go there. But the fact is they live in extreme trust deficit. Are they going to question even the armed forces now? Is that what they are saying? Because see, when at every level
No,
investigations
let's
are
be
going
fair.
on,
That's
every
not what
level
they're saying.
provision